the Catch Physical Therapy Headquarters podcast. Today, we're going to be changing your relationship with no, because a lot of you are avoiding sales conversations. You're avoiding asking the hard questions because you're too afraid of hearing no. But what if I told you that you're sitting on top of a gold mine and you actually make more money for every single no than you do for every single yes that you get? Now, you might think that I'm crazy, but when you actually know your numbers and break it down, it creates absolute clarity and it changes your relationship with no. So I'm going to show you everything that I'm talking about here in a little bit by actually breaking down the numbers and then giving you a tool, a calculator that will allow you to understand your numbers and the numbers that you need to hit in order to hit your financial goals. Really excited to dig into it. Ben, how are we feeling today, dude?
Good. No, I think it's just a relationship with rejection is the name of the game with entrepreneurship. So I'm excited to dive into this and help people get unstuck. So I think a lot of people are stuck and really have a negative connotation with rejection.
How do you think it, like, when thinking about our clients, like, how does it show up? Like, what are the consequences of people having this fear of rejection?
Yeah, I mean, it affects everything. It literally affects everything. You can't run workshops because you're afraid to get rejected by a gym owner telling you, no, we can't do this. Fear for running ads because it's colder traffic, and you know that, hey, I already struggle and have a hard time taking no's from referrals, and I convert pretty well. That no rate is going to be even higher on cold traffic, so I'm not going to run leads or run ads. So now I'm getting less leads. Now I don't have a practice, and now I can't hire. And even if I could hire, I wouldn't be putting myself out there because I'm afraid of a candidate telling me no. You see how all this trickles down. It's probably not just also in business. It's probably also in personal lives and dating, et cetera, friendships, social life. It really bleeds into everything. So it touches everything.
Right. And I want to share something because Ben and I are in the process of rebuilding all of our content, all of our curriculums, taking a new perspective based on every single thing that we've learned from Ben scaling his practice and us serving hundreds of different practitioners over the last 5 years. And so one of the big ways that being afraid of rejection, avoiding sales conversations shows up for practices is they miss out on one of the single greatest competitive advantages that a practice can have. And so I want to share this with everyone real quick, because if you are too afraid of rejection, if you're too afraid of having enrollment conversations, here's what happens. You procrastinate on it. You make it the last thing that you do at the end of the day. It's something that you do with low energy. And sometimes you might even push it off until tomorrow. But when you don't have a good relationship with no, and you're not making lead follow-up a core element of your business and how you're competing in the marketplace, here's what happens. Because if you're confident about your sales systems and you follow up within 1 minute, you have a 391% chance increase in the probability of not just them getting on the phone and booking, but actually converting into a long-term patient. If you follow up within 5 minutes, you're 20 times or 21 times more likely to connect with that prospect. If you wait 10, you're 4 times less likely to connect than if you follow up within 5 minutes. And if you follow up in an hour or later, you're 10 times less to connect with that lead than you are if you called within 5 minutes. And then if you wait 24 hours, the probability of contacting that prospect is less than 10%. And so when you focus on having a good relationship with your sales systems and being okay with hearing rejection or okay being ghosted by people, you have a massive competitive advantage over any competitor in your space, even if you're running the exact same marketing with the exact same budget, targeting the exact same people, because whoever follows up first, is 78% more likely to actually enroll that person, because people don't choose the best person. Most people just go with the very first person who actually contacts them. And so having a good relationship with no and rejection so that you can build highly effective lead follow-up systems gives you one of the greatest competitive advantages you can have in your marketplace, because the vast majority of people do not follow up within 24 hours, which is really, really sad. And so if you can make this a priority, you're going to be massively successful. But it starts with knowing your numbers. And so real quick, Ben, you want to walk them through this?
Yeah, I also just want to backtrack to Jordan's point earlier. It's like, Don't make it hard. People are trying to give you money. Like they're coming in saying, raising their hand, saying they need help, and you're lollygagging, getting back to them. Like they're trying to give you money. And so speed to lead is so important, and it's just crazy on how much of a bottleneck that is for most people. So, anyways, I want to also walk you guys through this playbook and also just mind shifting belief exercise here.
Mind shifting
Imagine,
belief.
yeah, imagine that I offer you this deal that for every lead that you try to follow up with ghosts you, you get $541. For every discovery call that didn't book, you get $340. For every evaluation that canceled or no showed, you'd get $3,600. Would you take that deal? Absolutely.
It's a damn good deal.
Right? Very good deal. That's the reality of our numbers. Is I know that every time that we get ghosted based on our conversion rates and our stats, I know that we're that much closer to a yes. We just got to get these no's out of the way, right? And so start viewing these no's as a positive. So if 8 people said no to me today, I'd make $8,000. If it happened for 30 days, I'd make $230,000. If it happened for 12 months, I'd make almost $3 million because of our lead volume and our follow-up process and just knowing our stats. You know, like I think Michael Jordan has the most missed game winners, and he's known as the most clutch shooter and trusted with most game-winning shots ever. Right? You've got to put yourself out there. Otherwise, you can't possibly win. And so you just need to start changing your relationship with no. So
right. And it's one of the most powerful shifts that you can make in your mind when you start to run the numbers and realize how much money you actually make for every single no. And if you're within KPI, if you're doing a good job contacting your leads, getting them on the phone, getting them booked for an eval, getting them to show up, and then converting them, you actually make more money for every single no than you do for your yeses. And so with how often Ben and his practice is rejected, these are the actual numbers that break down. So if you took this job, again, as Ben said, $7,000 for every 8 people that say no, over 30 days, $250,000, in 12 months, you would hit his annual revenue of 2.8 million. And so as the owner of your business, you have to know your numbers so that you can tolerate the daily rejection that is required to actually become successful. Now we have a calculator here that we use to basically map out these numbers that you can use to that we'll put in the comments or not in the comments, but we'll put in the description beneath this video so that you can use this and figure out exactly what your numbers are. All you have to do is punch in all of these details. And if you do not know these details, don't worry, you know what you need to do over the next 30 days. Okay, that is the biggest constraint in your business, not knowing what your biggest problem is. And so you need to figure that out, come back to this calculator, punch in this information. Otherwise, you are flying blind and you're as good as a shitty personal trainer offering rehab advice to one of their clients that got injured. That's what you're doing in your business. Stupid. Yep. Right? Okay. So, Ben, you want to break down? So these are Ben's actual numbers inside of his practice. You want to walk him through this, Ben?
Yeah. You want to blow it up a little bit more?
Oh, yeah. Let me zoom in here. How's that?
Yeah, it's a little better. Yeah. So we spend over the course of 12 months, we spent about $120,000 on paid advertising. We generated about 4,500 leads. We took about 3,300 calls, and then booked evaluations was around 1,500. And then another part of this is completed evaluations. How many people that we actually booked, did they actually come in? And then of those people that came in, how many people closed? And then our total revenue, total expenses, and then our total profit. You just need to know those numbers, and everything else will be spit out down below. So really, it's just every stage of the pipeline. You just need to know what your data is on that. So,
and if you have those numbers, calculating the rest becomes really, really easy. So Ben's lead to call rate 75%, taking calls to booked evals 47%, booked evals to completed evals almost 90%, and then completed evals to POC 83%. Not too shabby. But from here, we can start to figure out what we call the cash TPT ratios, the most important ratios that you need to understand in order to effectively assess, diagnose, and treat your business. And so from Ben's data, we know that for every single call that he needs, or for every single call to be generated, he needs 1.3 leads. Okay. So every single month, he can use this information to ask, okay, what's my close percentage over the phone? What's my booking rate? And how many calls do I need to generate in order to hit my numbers this month? And so if he needs 10 calls to sell 3 package sales, well, then he knows he needs to spend, you know, that ratio times 135 or times $27. So we can start to determine how much he needs to spend to acquire that many phone calls this month. And so all these ratios become extremely important in your day-to-day decision making. But here's the part that I think is the most eye-opening. Okay. For every single time Ben gets a yes, every single time a lead actually shows up, he's making $135 for every lead that he generates. For every taken call, whether they say yes or no, he's making $180. For every booked evaluation, again, regardless of whether or not they close, he's making $384, completed evals, $430, and so on. Okay, that's pretty dang powerful information. But I think the most powerful piece of this is this data right here. You want to walk them through the cost per yes and the number of no's?
Yeah, essentially the cost per yes is how much did we have to spend for somebody to say yes. All right, so that changed that every different stage, whether that once they're a lead, to taking call, booked evaluations, complete evaluations, plan of care. That all costs money to get them to that stage. And so that's the cost per yes. How much did we have to spend to get a yes at each stage? The no's is where we start seeing how much we generated. And we actually make more from no's because our conversion rate's so high that if we get a lead that doesn't continue on, didn't ghost us, we make $1,100 because we know the power of our conversion rates, that it's going to be that much more powerful for the people that say yes because we convert pretty well, right? And so that's the power of it as well. Taking calls, those that don't book, we make 1,800. Booked evaluations, we make 171. For complete evaluations, we make, for 9 people that didn't complete evaluations, we make 241. So essentially, it just goes to show that I know that more no's that we get, the closer we are to a yes, which means we're making money.
We actually got that slightly backwards. This is a new calculator. This is the first time I've showed. Ben is seeing this for the first time today too. Something I just built. But so he's making this much for every single rejection that he gets within his business. But I think the eye-opening piece is how many times he's actually being rejected on a regular basis. So in order to do $2.8 million last year, he had to get ghosted by 1,100 people. He had to have 1,700 people reject booking and evaluation over the phone. He had to have 171 people cancel or no-show that appointment, and then 241 people that rejected moving forward with one of his plans of care. Okay, the problem isn't you're getting too many no's. More than likely, the real problem is you're not even getting close to enough no's. Okay, so Ben was ghosted 1,200 times. He was verbally rejected over 2,000 times. And the total number of rejections was over 3,000. I'd be willing to bet right now that if you're struggling in your practice, you're not even getting close to enough no's. And so we share this to show you that hearing a no isn't a bad thing. It's actually something that is very, very valuable to the business. And if you look at it objectively, it's moving you closer to your goal. Because if you know your numbers, you know that every single no is bringing you statistically closer to your next yes. And so you shouldn't take it personally. You shouldn't let emotions get involved with it. You should just focus on the numbers and keep pushing forward. Remove psychology out of it. Save the psychology element of it for the actual discussion that you're having with your prospect. And then when it comes to the output and doing the work, just focus on the numbers. It's a volume game. Anything to add to the volume game, Ben?
No, I think this is also just from lead generation. this is a whole nother discussion too, at even more of a magnitude of recruitment for those that are trying to hire. Like this is just even more magnified. Like every time that I get a no from applicant, I'm like generating probably closer to like $150,000 because I know I'm that much closer to a PT that's going to say yes. That generates between $300 to $350,000 in our practice, right? So that's the thing too, is these are just no's from leads, like patients. It's also no's I've had from hiring staff, hiring front desk, hiring our sales reps, hiring our for clinic directors, hiring for personal trainers, like hiring all staff. Like these no's are just patients. These no's are even higher and even bigger magnitude when you start looking at recruitment. So it's the same psychology behind this can be also applied to the other funnel of team acquisition and talent acquisition too.
Oh yeah, definitely. I think just one of the core traits of any successful entrepreneur is having a positive relationship with no. And it starts by knowing your numbers so you actually have tangible proof that, hey, I'm actually doing pretty good. And it is required for me to reach my goals to hear rejection on an ongoing basis. And that's a muscle that has to be worked in order to grow. And so at first, it is really hard to handle rejection. But I hope that seeing these numbers and understanding what it actually takes is something that brings you a little bit of peace, that allows you to give yourself a little bit of grace when you are facing rejection, whether it's someone ghosting you, whether it's on the phone, whether it's someone who no-showed you, or someone who just said, I need to think about it, or thought that you might be too expensive. Just know that if you track your numbers, that starts to feel very different when you actually do it. So for you, most people, when they come to work with us, they start out just wanting to do $10,000 a month. So they want to make around $100,000 a year. That's take home. Okay. So if you want to make $100,000 in take home, that means that you need to be generating at least one lead a day. You need to be getting ghosted or have someone reject you. Every week, you need at least 3 leads. It's actually really, really easy to get here. 3 leads a week is so incredibly easy to get. But just know that of those 3, you're going to get ghosted and have some no's that are just bound to happen. And then, if you just run ads for a day, a week, and people say no, and you say, this isn't working, and you quit, you're not going to reap the fruits of your efforts. You have to stick with it, because as you see, as this scales up, the numbers start to change very quickly. So in a month, you'll need at least 13 leads. You're going to get 10 of these people to reject you. And then 3 of these people are going to commit to your premium packages. You scale that out to a quarter. Well, now you're making even more money, but you're getting rejected 30 times out of the 39 leads that you're generating. And so in order to be able to achieve our goals, it is a requirement to change our relationship with no, expect the no, but also recognize that for every single person that ghosts you, every person that rejects you, it brings you one step closer to the people that are actually going to say yes to you. And so hang in there, keep pushing forward, know your numbers, and don't be discouraged, because entrepreneurship is nothing but numbers and psychology. It's knowing and trusting the numbers, that the revenue and the profit, they're coming. If you're tracking your numbers, don't just hope and pray. Know your freaking numbers. And then the psychology is having the patience and the mental fortitude to wait for those numbers to balance out. Anything to add to that, Ben?
No, it's just I also want to preface this isn't an excuse to have a shitty conversion rate. The numbers actually get worse when you start. No's are so high is because we convert so high. All right, so that's not an excuse to not learn how to do sales. All that, it's just based on numbers, and the higher that your conversion rate is, the more you get paid to hear no, is what it comes down to. So make sure that you're optimizing your entire sales funnel. From speed to lead, phone calls, in-person evaluations, continuity. That's the reason ours is so high, not because we're answering phones and do you take insurance? No, we don't. All right, goodbye. All right, one closer, right? So you've got to. There's also a caveat here. You have to have the reason these numbers look so great is because we have a high conversion rate, and in my opinion, have the best sales process of any physical therapy clinic out there.
Facts. Now, I want to demonstrate that real quick because you're right. Like most people are not good enough, but it's really important to understand these numbers so you can know what it is you need to optimize. Let's say that, let's say booked evals, completed evals, and Ben only sold 900 plans of care. Okay. So it's going to change our data set, obviously, but it's also going to have a very big impact. Let's say that Ben wants to do 5 million. Okay. So let's I think you were at about 1200. Okay. So this is where Ben was sitting. All right. And so yeah, right now with that conversion rate, he only needs to generate, you know, 7,800 leads a year in order to do that. And if his cost per lead is $100, that adds up to a lot of money. And now, if you don't change anything, you're going to spend a lot of money, A, on ads, and B, in the expenses for the team to be able to follow up and manage that lead volume. So another way that you can do it is let's just increase our plan of care conversions. Let's say that instead of 1,200, he did, oh wait, can't do more than 100%. Let's say that his conversion rate was actually lower. Okay. 900. Now when we go down here, based off of his own numbers, hold on, make sure. Data saved. I'm gonna have to fix this. It's busted. But
well, the bottom income goal is not related, I don't think, or tied into that.
It's tied into the conversion rates that you have here. Yeah. So the conversion rate dropped here. So this data set just needs to be updated. But that'll take me 2 seconds to fix. But the point is that if you don't know your numbers, you don't know what to fix. And if you look at these numbers and you say, oh, I can just keep doing what I've been doing and I'll get there eventually, maybe. But if you looked at one of your conversion or one of your cash DPT ratios, and you could just tweak that by a tiny percentage, well, then it could allow you to reach your goal not only way faster, but with way less effort. And so you're right, Ben. It's not an excuse not to be great at this just because the numbers will get you there eventually. It'd be foolish to take 10 years to do something that you could do in 3. And so we have to know our numbers to know which one of these, if optimized by 10%, is going to have the greatest impact on bottom line profit and make this growth way more attainable. So that's our piece. Everyone, a lot of people sabotage their own success because they're terrified of rejection. We just proved to you with math that rejection is a necessary part of building a successful business. And the sooner you accept that, the sooner you run your numbers and realize how much money you're actually getting per phone call, per lead, per rejection, the faster you can change your relationship with it. If you want access to this calculator, it's going to be linked right beneath this video on YouTube and on our podcast. It will be completely updated and fixed within the hour. So if you want it, just click the link below. You can get access to it. If you got value out of this episode, don't forget to like and subscribe to the podcast for more training every single week on what's working right now to grow and scale cash physical therapy practices. Anything to add, Ben?